so that was fun, but it was really, for me, it was really a big deal to explore this area, to take the men up there, to be responsible for them. I would go, each man, I guess, like I said, could either choose a 2, 3, or 4 day fast. And I would go up personally and pick each man up from this spot and bring them back down to the main camp. And so, it was wilderness camping. We set up this big, bought a parachute as a cover for the cooking area, dining area, and it was a rugged spot. In fact, on I think the fifth or sixth year, a larger group of 12 went up there, and we had found this place, Glacier Lake, quite a bit higher up. And on that trip, we took one excursion leaving the base camp, and a bunch of us, not all, a couple of the men weren't physically able or willing to sleep out under the stars, without tents. We decided to give it a try one day. And that was really significant because that trip in 1999 with a bigger group and a really cool brother, one of the men in my I group, Paul Sheely, he brought one of his sons out. And so we were able to do a special King's blessing with him for his 14th birthday, Paul taking him on this excursion, but then he and I both as kings giving his son and all the men in the group this King's blessing up there at Glacier Lake. It was a profound experience. I remember just feeling so full, like at the time, that was the highest expression of my life. Being present for these other men, my brothers, being present for them and giving and receiving this blessing. It was a very, very beautiful experience. So for me, that was a really big part of my journey, doing this repeatedly. And I think it was probably in 2005, 2004, I forget exactly when. There was a time then when I got a chance to do a different King's blessing, when my stepdaughter, whom I really had fathered very beautifully, in fact, she had been very estranged from her dad. And I remember when she asked me to walk her down the aisle for her wedding, that was a very sweet thing. But the year before that, I think her wedding was 2005, 2004, she said to me, it was early summer, and she said to me, I'm pretty sure your dad is going to die very soon. I think you should maybe go back and visit him. And I trusted that her intuition was correct. She actually worked in the field of geriatrics and particularly around hospice and all that. So anyway, some signals that she was picking up from him led her to believe that he was ready. He was ready to go. And as I had done with my little sister, I felt I was going to do my best to give my dad a blessing before he passed. So I orchestrated a trip to go back and see him just for a weekend, fly back and rent a car and go stay with my eldest sister and give my dad this blessing. And yeah, there's a great thing that I learned from Byron Katie, her process called the work. There's a thing in the work that is this reversal, where you come to realize that if you think something was true, like if I had a prominent thought through my life that my father had never loved me enough, her process in the work is to question that belief and possibly even consider the opposite as being true. Like, instead of my dad never loving me enough, it was probably very clear that I never had loved him enough. And this is what I was finding with working with the men, that was by giving the blessing, that's the way you really receive. To give something means you have it to give, right? This is this whole principle of seeking and finding that I've mentioned in many of my talks. And so I got it before I made this trip to see my dad, that I had learned how to receive this blessing. I didn't need to get it from him. I had never gotten it from him, but he had never received this blessing in his life, and he needed to receive it. And who better to give it to him than his only son? I mean, my dad had never really had a friend. He had never had anybody, I think, that really cared for him, because, I mean, he set it up by being such a bad person, a real true asshole, that he was very unlikable. But did he deserve to be loved, particularly before he died? I think so. So I was determined to go back and do my best to show him this love. And again, I must say it was very challenging when I showed up. I stopped by Friday evening just to say, Dad, I'm going to come tomorrow and spend the day with you. He's like, okay, sitting there drunk as a skunk and smoking his stinky cigars. He lived in this hellhole of cinder block subsidized living place. It was really a pretty horrible place that he had manifested as his kingdom. The poor, broken man that he was. So Saturday morning, I come back and I'm ready to do whatever. I had no clue how I was going to do this. I remember going in and sitting in his filthy apartment, sitting on the sofa. He had the TV on already, and he's already drinking and smoking his cigar and yelling at the TV. You know, I'm sure there was a basketball game, or maybe it was Friday night, the night before. He's yelling at the black people, calling them niggers and whatever. And I'm just thinking, like, wow, okay, how am I going to do this where it's not just contrived, where it's not manufactured, because he's as unlikable as he ever was. So anyway, Saturday morning, I come in, I sit for a few minutes on the sofa, and I just don't have a clue. Then I remember getting this thought, why don't you go in and clean his kitchen? It was amazing. It was truly amazing. So I get this sponge and a bucket of water, and I go tell him, hey, Dad, I'm gonna clean your kitchen. He's like, okay. So I go and I get warm, soapy water and a big sponge, and I'm working on the walls. And because my dad was living in this closed-in environment and always smoking his cigars, it was the walls are filthy with sticky brown goo, you know, from the cigars, from the smoke, from, you know, these years, several years of buildup. Anyway, the walls, squeezing the brown goo down the sink, the wall. I mean, so this is going on all morning. I'm just doing this, and I'm starting to feel lighter and happier as I'm going along. It was an amazing experience, because I realized each time I was squeezing this brown goo down the sink, that was all my hatred. I had hated this man for all of my life, like I'd never hated anyone before. I mean, I was able to feel some of the same type of hatred for Suzanne in my marriage, that special hatred that comes to the surface. But I had deeply hated my father for probably 45 years, probably ever since I was 10 years old. I hated this man more than anyone. And even with all of my spiritual work, all of my men's work, I still hated him. So this day, this hatred was being washed away. The hatred was being washed away. I did this the whole day. There was no way I could have a conversation with him. There was no way I could do anything but clean, because I was doing it for me, which maybe tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, I'd come back and give him something. But this was for me the whole day Saturday. Cleaning his filthy kitchen was for me. It was a miracle. So Sunday morning, I was able to go back and I just felt free. I was no longer burdened. The stuff that I talked about before, the things that I thought, all of it was gone. There was like nothing left. There was just me, his only son, close to 50 years old, saying goodbye to my father. So I go in Sunday morning. I don't even wait around. I'd say, Dad, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go back to Minnesota. And I just want to tell you how much I love you. I stood in front of him. He's in his chair, the filthy cushion behind his head. It was like, there's this little broken, pathetic, sad man sitting in a chair. And all I see is, this is my dad. And I love you, Dad. And his chin is quivering, and he just kind of goes, I know. I love you too. And then like, because I say, I know I'll never see you again. And I just, probably it was 2 minutes, but it felt like an hour. Just me just standing over him, loving him, being totally peaceful, like we were done. Leaned over, gave him a big hug. He's crying. I walk away. I get to the door, and it was interesting. For some weird reason, I suddenly spin around and I salute my dad. He had been in the war, Korean War. When I was born, he didn't see me until I was 6 months old. I wanted to be an Air Force officer like him. That didn't work out. But here I am. I give him a salute. He salutes me back, and I go. And I just remember the morning was so bright and sparkly, and the birds were chirping. I mean, I was in heaven because I had done the greatest thing I could ever do. I gave my father a true blessing, and he received it. And I think it was 10 days later, he was gone. And I think he died a peaceful death because he was able to receive the one thing that everybody wants and everybody deserves, a blessing. I know it's so easy for us to hate these certain individuals, and always in me, I feel I feel a certain compassion for these individuals that are so hated, because I know clearly how it was for my dad. And I know why bad people act the way they do. Thank you so much. I love you.